Hello, everyone, and welcome to Be Our Guesty. This is the 29th Guesty meetup for 2020 and the last one for 2020, just before the holidays. We're excited to have you all. Today, we're going to talk about best practices for the path forward with some of the leading thought leaders of this industry. My name is Vered Raviv Schwartz, President and COO of Guesty, and introducing the wonderful panelists I have here with me today. This is the first time that we're really focused on one of the major pillars of our industry, the associations, which have served as a crucial point this year with the challenges that we have all experienced through COVID-19. So first and foremost, Marilee Carr, Chair of the UK Short-Term Accommodation Association. Welcome, Marilee. Then we have Carlos Vilaro-Lasson, Secretary General of the European Holiday Home Association. Great to have you, Carlos. And last but not least, Eduardo Miranda, President of the Portuguese Association of Local Lodging. Welcome, Eduardo, and wonderful to have all of you with us today. We will begin with some opening remarks about data that we've captured at Guesty and introducing Guesty to you guys, followed by presentations by Marilee, Eduardo, and Carlos on the current climate in the EU, initiatives that they've advanced to help the short-term rental industry, and also some predictions on what's to come in 2021. We will then open a panel discussion moderated by me with our guests to discuss some of the burning issues for short-term rentals, and of course be open to Q&A at the end of the session. So getting right to it, although recovery is uncertain, we definitely see some uplifting trends for the short-term rental ecosystem and believe that we're poised for growth in 2021. Particularly for our guests here in Portugal, Spain, and United Kingdom, we see an uplift in reservations, length of stay, and pricing for the past month. I think that if we look at the holiday season, Portugal and Spain being warmer countries are definitely targets for the holiday vacations. Portugal with reservations volume up 2.5%, average nightly rate over 30% higher than last month, and average length of stay longer as well. With Spain, we see reservations up 32%, average nightly rate up 38%, and length of stay going up to 19 nights, over 100%, 115% to be exact, from the same time last year. And with the United Kingdom, due to the cold weather and some lockups, we still don't see such a lift in reservations, but we do see that the average length of stay has increased dramatically, 24% longer than last month and 58% longer than last year, especially due to family gathering, staycations, people trying to find a different place to stay during Corona time, etc. In addition to that, it's not over yet because we have seen reservations in property management companies really going last minute this time. Again, due to lockdowns, due to not being sure if I'm going to be healthy next week or not, people are really waiting to the last minute. 15% are booking on the last day before check-in, and an additional 35% are booking on the last 7 days, meaning you still may get more holiday bookings last minute, and you should be prepared for that influx in reservations, even if they come up at the very day before Christmas or before New Year. We have seen, as an example, although you can see that Christmas and New Year's Eve are still lower in reservations compared to last year, when we looked at Thanksgiving in November, it was at about the same rate, looking at it a few weeks before Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving ended up being 14% higher than November 19. So again, prepare for those last minute bookings, and we're still very positive about the holiday season, looking at last holiday trends. we also have to remember that people prefer short-term rentals over traditional hotel stays this season for several reasons. They want to have family gatherings and need to respect the social distancing and need larger spaces. They want to have a full stock kitchen to cook a festive meal. They want to have lower guest turnover and are very concerned about cleaning protocols and about high touch surfaces. So, as much as they can avoid contact and have contact free stays, the better. And you can definitely get that in a short term rental rather than a hotel space with a joint elevator, a joint lobby, a joint restaurant, etc. So, definitely another reason why we see a lot of hotel goers go and opt for short term rentals this year. I want to mention also that a lot of property managers understand the need to utilize tech to navigate this period. And it's stronger than ever before because of the touchless experiences I've mentioned, because of the need to automate and streamline and be more efficient. And for those of you who don't know Guesty, Guesty is a platform that allows end-to-end simplifications of complex operational needs, accompanying flexible inventory management. That includes managing the demand side, connecting to the channels, having a unified inbox for guest communications, having a multi-calendar, having analytics, automations, and a lot of different tools to manage your day-to-day business. In addition to that, we have a marketplace of partners. Over 100 companies are connected to our marketplace to allow you more flexibility and better guest experience, including the major OTAs and including solutions for pricing automation, for smart home automation, for example, keyless entry, and cleaning monitoring that are very important at this time. A new suite of features that we recently launched is to support the multi-unit apart hotel and boutique hotel management. I'm sure some of our guests today are interested in that type of management. We've seen that in particular with apart hotels, trying to all of a sudden go remote and have less guest interaction, tech is really important. It allows you to automatically list properties in multi-channels, utilize a direct booking website, which has also become more popular with some local marketing needed to be done with domestic travel, managing and automating rates, manage reservations from multi-calendar, and a lot of other features. I don't want to spend any more time and allow our guests to speak more, so I'll just refer you to this page of the apart hotel section on our website where you can find more information. I'd like to introduce our panelists again. Marilee Carr will begin with her presentation, followed by Carlos and Eduardo. So Marilee, it's wonderful to have you. I'll allow you to share your presentation with us, and we look forward to hearing about the UK and your association.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for having me. So the Short-Term Accommodation Association in the UK is about 4 years old. Our members include everyone from the huge platforms like Airbnb, Expedia, HomeAway, Vrbo, as well as more than 100 members, which cover property managers of all size, from companies like Guest Ready, House, One Fine Stay, My Company Under the Doormat, through to lots of small property managers and even individual hosts. So we represent the vast majority of the industry in the UK, and we've built really strong relationships with government so that whenever there are regulatory proposals, etc., we're working very closely with government to make sure that our industry is able to grow responsibly. I think our overall goal is that we actually help the industry grow. And we do that responsibly through a number of initiatives. One of the things that we want to do is make sure that our policymakers and stakeholders, that they understand our businesses. Because often when policymakers and regulators look at regulating or putting rules in place for us, they often just think, oh, they're big global platforms. They don't understand that there's an entire ecosystem. There's a lot of small businesses, there's entrepreneurs, and that actually these are local businesses. And I think that's really important because the impact that our industry has in any particular country, the UK is not unique in that regard, is that we provide income for owners. We provide jobs for people who support and provide the services. And we also provide income to all the local businesses that depend on tourists who come into those areas. And so I think that's really important. And often the people who are looking to regulate us don't even understand the entire ecosystem that we represent. So that's really important. And we've done a lot of work also on PR in terms of sharing the good stories and the work that we do. And I'll come to some of those initiatives in a minute. But I think what's also important and what we try to deliver for our members is commercial and educational opportunities. So it's about meeting all the companies in the industry and understanding what's out there to help people's businesses grow. But also as an industry to be able to create opportunities. We're working with Visit Britain on a campaign that will help actually drive more tourism into Britain, but also specifically to short-term rentals, and having another platform that people can advertise their properties on, which are targeted at staycations in the UK, through to Trusted Stays, which is a portal which came out of the NHS Homes program that we delivered over the summer. And I think that's important because the association is led by businesses, and therefore it is always about driving that commercial outcome for the companies that are members. But making sure that we all have the environment in the UK and hopefully beyond. We think that the UK is often leading the way globally and setting the example in other markets as well. And certainly the things that we do here, we're very happy to be copied, stolen, shared, whatever you like, so that they can benefit other associations and other businesses around the world. A couple of the things that we've done in particular this year, which I think is really important. The first one is that we launched and delivered the NHS Home Scheme. We've never had so much good press about our industry as this scheme achieved. We were on the BBC, on Sky News, in the Times, all the major UK publications. And it was a great example of how our industry came together to do something good in the time of crisis. We've also never had such positive feedback from all of the MPs, all of the regulators about the role that our industry is playing and the goodwill that that scheme built in terms of us playing a role in regulations of the future and the role that we play in communities was absolutely massive. And we then actually turned that into a commercial model. So while we gave away stays for free during the first lockdown, we then built a platform which is Trusted Stays, so that any company in the UK who is accredited and who meets the standards that we've set as an industry can sell their properties into government and corporates for the long term. And I think that's really exciting because I'm not sure of anywhere else in the world where there's a platform which government has invested in and helped us to create, which allows governments to buy stays in short-term rentals. And again, that's something we're happy to share more widely and grow because we think it's a great thing. And we think that the best way for people to regulate our industry appropriately is to be staying in our homes, understanding our businesses, and by the way, giving us an income, particularly in these difficult times. The second thing is that we worked together as an industry and created industry cleaning guidelines. Those are also aligned with the other guidelines that have been established around the world. I think it was a great example of how the industry pulled together to come up with a single standard, and getting those approved by the UK government meant that we actually had fewer restrictions on our sector even than hotels at certain moments. So coming up over Christmas, as an example, up to 3 households can stay in a short-term rental, but only 1 household can book a hotel. And I think that goes to show how much education has influenced the restrictions that are being placed on our industry. And those cleaning guidelines were great. Visit Britain then had a scheme called We're Good to Go, And so all of our members could sign up to that scheme and then have a government approved seal that they could put on their websites to help consumers know that it's a safe choice to choose those businesses. Obviously, this year, staycations have been a big trend everywhere in Europe. And I suspect in 2021, that will be no different. And so it's also about working together with government, working together as an industry so that we can capitalize on that staycation trend, supporting that with PR so that, as we get out there, we've talked about, for example, articles in the press around Christmas and how people are looking for safe ways to stay with their family and to see people that they haven't seen all year, and how short-term rentals and staying in homes can be a safe way to do that. And I think getting that positive PR out there about how we are helping for people to achieve, the travel plans that they can do even in these difficult times is really important. And finally, and it's kind of been covered throughout as well, government advocacy, working together to ensure that we get the right regulatory environment in the UK, both in the short term and the long term. And I think what's been really important is that we partnered with Quality in Tourism to have a clear accreditation and set of standards for the UK. Again, that is something which is not unique to us, and we're happy to export to whoever wants it. Having those clear standards, we've developed a buildings policy to solve challenges in cities. All these voluntary initiatives like Trusted Stays, NHS Homes, are all there to help ensure that we have the biggest possible environment for our industry to grow. And it's been incredible to see how many companies have got involved. And we welcome anyone to join in and be a part of it, because it doesn't matter which country you're in. There are, of course, the Portuguese Association here with us today as well, and the EHHA, or, if people are in North America, there's obviously VRMA, etc. And I think the main thing is make sure that you're part of that voice, because we're only as strong as all the voices together. And the more of us who invest our energy and our time into helping the industry grow, the better chance we have all to succeed and recover as quickly as possible coming out the other side.
Thank you, Marilee, for the insightful discussion. I'll go back to it in our panel discussion very soon. I think some of the points were excellent. Carlos, please go ahead and share your screen. And again, we welcome Carlos Villar-Lesson.
Thank you for the job Guesty have been doing under this lockdown, supporting property managers, supporting the industry, keeping on trying to find solutions on everything. So thank you for that, and shout out to Roberto. I think you guys done great. And I'm happy to share some thoughts and also take the discussion. It was great to hear Marilee. They are doing such a fantastic job. Then I'll just jump to make some points. The European Holiday Homes Association tries to do what Marilee is doing in the UK, what I'm in Copenhagen right now, trying to do with the Danish Association, Eduardo in Portugal, just on a European level, which makes everything much more complicated and much more difficult, as I've been experiencing. But what we've tried and what we've succeeded in some ways is to get all parts of the chain, just as Marilee explained, both the platforms, the property managers, the big pan-European property managers, the small property managers, and also house owners, houseboat owners. And one of the cores of the European Holiday Home Association is, of course, the regional and national trade associations, doing the big job on the ground where you really have to discuss with the politicians. What we've seen on the COVID situation are some quite clear trends. One trend is that we've seen new guests coming and using our inventory, our apartments, our houses. People that never rented before is trying this. And that's one of the exciting things about being in the short-term rental industry, that I heard a figure from AGL Consulting saying 70% of all Europeans never tried a short-term rental. So that's fantastic, because that shows us that we have a huge potential market. And one thing we know is that when guests tried our product, they'll come back again. So good perspective for the future. We've seen, of course, and that's everywhere, a huge trend from the city to the coastal areas, to the rural areas. That has been massive. From Copenhagen to the Danish West Coast, from Rome to the coast part there, from Paris to the southern Mediterranean. And I think that's a trend we will see keep going on, because the pandemic, even we've seen the vaccine coming up, people will, and a very interesting study you showed us, there are some figures that people prefer short-term rental rather than hotels because of these things, and that will keep on. Another perspective we've seen is from south to north. That's maybe of the logic of the European market. What the trend in Europe is the Northern Europeans travel south. You have the beautiful sun, Eduardo, and we have the cold, gray weather outside, right? But what we've seen under the pandemic is that some of the Northern European markets actually thrived because the Germans couldn't go south or stayed in Germany, the Brits as well, the Scandinavians. So there was some kind of belt, and it was tougher on the southern part of that. So that's one of the trends. After the lockdown, we are quite sure that our industry will get even stronger. Because why? We will see increased demand. People will want affordable holidays. They will. We saw that this summer. It's not that we all became zombies because of the lockdown. People are ready to travel the moment they feel safe about it. The moment governments say, okay, now the vaccine is in place, everything is in order, they will start traveling. So we will see increased demand for the next years to come. We will see increase in supply. And that's something that we actually need. Of course, it's competition if more properties comes out in the market. But being the big industry in Europe, we represent 25 million beds in short-term rentals. The total number of beds in hotels is about 11 million, more than the double number of beds. And we will see more people say, we need that money. Please rent out my secondary home. Please rent my apartment, and then I'll move to my friends or my parents or whatever. And I believe we will see a better political climate. And that's, at the moment, everybody thinks it's a free lunch, this lockdown, right? So okay, we lock down, how much do you need to pay? We just make more money in the central banks, whatever. But the bill has to be paid on the other side. And I think that exactly as Marilee said, they don't realize how many jobs we create. Every 2 units creates a full-time job, a full-time paid job in Italy or in Sweden or in Portugal or in Germany. Every time 2 properties are set out for rent, that's the average figure. So these kind of jobs, this turnover in the shops, in the restaurants, etc., that will be much more valued. At the moment, we see terrible things happening, and also the European Commission wanting to hit down on the big platforms. And sometimes it makes sense, but much of it is a little bit political driven, like an excuse for other things, housing problems, other things. But I think we will see a better political climate. And then just to finalize, what we think is that we've been catalyzed. The pandemic has been catalyzing us 10 years ahead, and we will see a tech revolution. If you have one property and you go playing with you guys in Guesty, you're like a cyborg. You'll be a multi-machine. You are like something where you can be with your property on the whole world as a market. You have dynamic pricing. You can put all the services because of the technology that you can provide with your partners. But we will also see another trend. Huge players will appear. If you take the 3 biggest property managers in Europe, they have less than 200,000 units in total. Less than 200,000 out of 4 million units. And now I'm speaking of the property managers. And the platforms, yes, also there we will see even bigger ones. We saw the crazy IPO last week. Everybody got richer because, yes, of course, the ones who got that IPO got richer at Airbnb. But that really showed that what we are working with is high value. And then finally, we will see a new kind of distortion. The short-term rental market, I think, has made a change. Somebody call it distortion, that's a bit negative, but it's, from my point of view, a better use of the resources. And we've turned full-time houses to that we can rent them out for short-term rental. We've turned secondary homes to be one thing that one guy had and nobody else could do it, to be able to share your secondary home, your summer house. What we'll see now in the next, very quickly, and we've seen that people can work from home. So we'll see short-term rental, medium-term rentals, staycations, things like you said, Marilee, and then long-term rentals. So huge trends, things that we knew would happen in the next 5 to 10 years, just happening in a few days. And I believe all these lockdowns, they will be very soon over. It's impossible that they can keep on for many weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos, for those comments. Please share your presentation, Eduardo.
Hi, Vered. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, before I put my screen on, just introducing, we are the short-term rental. We call it local accommodation. We love this term. We prefer than short-term rental. Association from Portugal. So mainly we have all the players. It could be a single property individual owner, or it could be a property manager. It doesn't matter for us. We are all players of the same industry, and our industry is mainly diversity. So we have to embrace everyone, and that's very important. We cannot divide ourselves. We have to see the industry as being a huge, diverse offer, and that's the biggest strength we have in terms of strategy for tourism. No? Basically, what we are doing in the spirit, we have several areas that we have to work on. The next few steps here. Well, basically, we are in the final steps of the hibernation period. And I believe companies have to deal with both modes, the survival mode and the starting of the defrozen mode, meaning that you still have to keep on with your financial plan. Otherwise, you don't get to the spring, the unfrozen. But at the same time, you have to start moving again the machine. Okay, so it's a very good time, and many are doing that, is to reviewing all the final costs, get all the last support, and that's something we are talking about next from government, because you will need them. We still have a few months on the way. Decide the future structure that you have to have, and explore other alternatives. It's now, especially for property manager, they still have to explore other kind of segments, like the midterm segments, whatever kind of midterm, students, business, eventually some property owners, they will migrate to the long term, and the property managers have to have this kind of portfolio, diversified portfolio, because they need it for cash flow now. Then we believe with the vaccine, we start the get smart period, meaning that you have to keep alert with all the market signs, because we don't really know how the market is going to be reborn now. So we have to be very, very careful with the air routes that are opening, because they are the first one indicating where the next tourists are coming from. The vaccination phases are very important from the origins, the country of origin. So if they go faster in one country, maybe this is the first country that you have to deal with in terms of tourism. No? So this is a time that everyone has to be very, very alert and be very informed, and eventually start reviewing and adjusting the channels. Because eventually, if one or on another country start opening more, maybe there is one or more specific channels that would be interesting to bet. And now it's a good time to open new channels, because it's easier. And you have to have a flexible portfolio, meaning that you're still in the short term, some clients are still coming, but also you need the midterm for the cash. And after, we hope on summer, if the vaccine phase goes to the general public, because the first phases of the vaccine process is usually not our clients. I mean, it's people, elder people with some kind of previous problems. No? So when the third or second or third, depending on the country, phase starts, March, April, May, then you start to see real potential clients starting to book. It's going to be a gradual phase. It's going to be totally different. For example, we expect eventually in the beach in the summer that with the national market and with the international market, maybe they had a better recovery. The countrysides, we already saw that last year in the isolated properties where the family goes. And it's going to be harder and more gradual in the cities, in the big cities. We have to assume that and be prepared to that. So taking that in consideration, we had to change a lot of plans in terms of the association. We are working in very different areas. So the first one is the hibernation. We're still in hibernation. So we need to go on negotiating the final phase of public support. It's very important for the survival of the companies. And people think it's easy, but they don't realize that in most of the countries, short-term rental is not even considered of any kind of support. The authorities laugh in some countries when short-term rental is asking for any kind of support. Fortunately here, not enough. We needed more. We have problems with the small owners, it's true. It's not easy when you're a sole proprietor, for example, to get money. But we managed to create, for example, a specific line for tourists where the sole proprietors, even without account, managed to get from the tourists of Portugal. We are in the creation of this, we propose this, but the big lines are very difficult, especially the European lines, because if you don't have an organized account, you are out of this. So that's the kind of thing we are working very hard now. And what we have managed to do together with the Tourist Confederation is putting short-term rental also as part of this. We don't get everything. Sometimes we are excluded, but it's a huge step to get this kind of support that we are trying to manage here. Second, we have to help them explore these new segments. We are very comfortable before. We're just waiting for the bookings to come from Guesty system, coming from whatever it comes, Airbnb booking, and we were mainly sitting down waiting for the bookings automatically to come. So now we have to look for new segments, and that's one thing we are doing. We are working, including with the government. We have already developed some sites. For example, we made an agreement with Ministry of Education, and we created a site to showroom short-term rental for students, for example. In fact, we are having a meeting with the ministry next week. It's not a big market yet because the students are still home, but it's important because maybe in January, February, they can keep coming, the master, for example. And next year, we are going to open with the support of the government, the same way as Marilee said. We are being supported by the government to create several platforms, several sites for this kind of niche. It's not general booking platform. We don't want to compete with Airbnb unless someone gives $3 billion. But there are many niches that are potentially, for example, we are talking about campaigns. The government, like Visit UK, we have the Visit Portugal. They are doing a big campaign. Probably they postponed to February, March. And we need a site to be part of the campaign. So they're helping us to build the site, supporting us with the sites. And in the future also for niche, for Congress, for medical care, so we can create specific booking sites for that. Then we have the migration to the online training. The training was always our biggest effort, especially last year. The presential training is difficult, so now we are migrating everything online with the compliance. That's very important to help people comply with the tax and legal aspects. Revenue, new markets. For example, we started with the webinar this year, and we had Safe and Clean. There was the certification from the government, and we were the first association to adapt the certification to our specific needs. And we made together with the government, side by side, the webinars, and we had 3,200 online participants. All the webinars now, we count with 12 webinars. We have already 7,500 online participants. Only one seminar had 1,500. So we just find a new potential that we never thought it was possible. We made a hell to get 100 people in a seminar room, and now all of a sudden 100 seems not much, you know. And then we need to prepare the industry for the future. That's the other part that we cannot. First of all, we have to be careful with the legal changes. You can have the best net. We have a quite reasonable relation with government here. We have regular meetings with the Secretary of State, with the government, even with the minister. This year we managed to have the Prime Minister, including the President. We managed to change one or two tax things, but it's always very, very difficult with short-term rental. Everything is very different. And the world is going to be changing from next year on, especially with the European funds. The green agenda, the sustainability agenda is becoming real. If we don't go this, it doesn't matter how much you believe on that. If you don't follow this route now, we are going to be out of the market. And if you already had the pressure of all these housing things and not knowing very well short-term rental, if we are out of the sustainability course now, we are going to be completely out of the future. So that's a very important thing. We're starting to work this year. We are already proposing to government to create some projects, initiatives. We are taking part in the official process that's starting now in January to work and to redirect everything to sustainability. This means social, economic, and also ambient energy, plastic, and all this, the other side of sustainability. And this is, for me, the main future goal. If we manage to go in this route, we can show that short-term rental can be one of the best allied for tourism, sustainability in tourism. If we lose this train, we are going to be completely out of the future of tourism. Well, basically speaking, that's what I had to say about our activity here.
Wonderful, Eduardo. It's really amazing to hear how much has been done over the past year, and some things that I think all of us didn't feel are even possible and we didn't expect to happen. So not all negative this year. Thank you, Marilee, Carlos, and Eduardo. And I'd like to open the panel discussion with my first question to all of you. No question about it that 2020 has been the most unprecedented year of travel and hospitality. And if you can, from all your learnings, from everything you've done, what's the one thing that a proper manager should be planning for next year, assuming we're coming out of this chaos? Marilee, would you like to go first, please?
Yeah, happy to. I mean, obviously, my own company, Under the Doormat, we are a property manager as well as being a B2B software, Hosperia. And I think what we see is that using this time to prepare for the future, to onboard more supply, so get more homeowners into your portfolio, to get your technology right, to make sure that you've got, not just a PMS, but you've thought about revenue management, you've thought about field service management, you've got all those elements in place, you've got great reservations, you've got the right channels to market. So you're not relying just on, direct bookings or one source of OTA income, and that you've diversified as much as possible, because I think those are the things that are going to prepare you to be able to recover quicker. We've done a study and we're doing a pilot with STR, which is a benchmarking organization that's traditionally worked in the hotel sector. And what we're starting to see is that our sector is recovering more quickly than hotels. And certainly in London, we've seen that occupancy levels in short-term rentals and service departments is higher than occupancy levels in hotels, which is completely the opposite of what you see in a normal world. And so I think the opportunity is there, the consumer demand is there, and it's all about us having our houses in order so that we are ready for that demand when it comes. And that we're using technology because, everyone's had to be cautious about hiring new resource and all these types of things. So without the right team to grow, how do you make sure that you grow efficiently as a business? And I think there's some exciting things out there for people to have a look at. That's why Guesty is doing so well in these tough times. That's why, new models like what we've launched with Hosperia are really interesting for people who have not in the past used technology as their main focus for growth.
Thank you. Carlos, would you like to?
Well, totally agree with you, Marilee. And I think that what we've learned is that we've become so much sophisticated in our product. And even in this period, we will see that on the other side, already next year, revenue management will be one of the big things. Just 3 years ago, price was something like, okay, what will we put the price for next year? Guests, where did they come from? Oh, guests, there's a guy from Australia. How strange. How did he come here? Oh, there's a German. Oh, yeah, there's usually a lot of Germans. Now we exactly know, as you said, Eduardo, which markets is opening up, where do they have their holidays, what is the interest, and we can collaborate in so many ways, so that I think that our product has been going from something just trying to catch up with things because it's so demand driven that we actually can can put all the important agendas. As you said, also, we are, Eduardo, the thing about sustainability. We are the most sustainable thing. If we want to double figures in Europe, we can't build us out of it. We can't build enough hotels to have the double of people in the next summer 2024 compared with 2014. So we need to use the existing capacity. And I think that everybody's saying we weren't prepared for this lockdown and this situation. I believe we were prepared, and we are much better prepared than our friends and my heart is bleeding for the travel agencies and for the hoteliers. Even sometimes they are nasty. They will come into our world and understand that we are supplementing each other. And I really think that they've been much harder hit. And when the recovery starts up, we can just say, okay, 2020, we were, what do you call it, Eduardo, hibernating. Now we are ready. And the other guys has to pay the bills for the last year of the lockdown. And we've been paying their bills also because they've got, as you said, Eduardo and Marilee, the lack of understanding also meant that we've got a lot less recovery help than other industries. And maybe also we don't need it that much because we are that much better prepared for these kinds of changes. Sorry, Eduardo.
Well, let's use a little bit of our biology classes, Darwin. So theory of evolution, we need to adapt and we need to be flexible. Darwin is not about being the strongest one, the biggest one, the most professional or whatever. I would like to say here that the most professional are going to survive. And I wouldn't be honest enough, because the question is the question of how can you adapt in change. And we are going to see still a very, very ambient in terms of changing everything. So we have to be flexible to adapt to the change and to quickly enough get any opportunity that you can. That means that most property managers will have to review the structure. And we are trying, as property managers, most of us, to build a mix of fixed and variable structure. And the fixed structure was good for quality because then we had our own people doing things. This is going to be reviewed probably now. We only had the short-term rental in the platforms mainly. Now we have 2, 3, 4 new. We have to go to the business markets. We have to go to the students markets. And this means adaptation. It's flexible. So if you want to survive in this changing period, you will have to be flexible to get the opportunities. Of course, I also believe that the ones that were doing this, I wouldn't say not professionally, but it was too easy. We had clients coming, and we don't know, especially in Portugal, everything was going quite well. Tourism was doing quite well. So the small ones, some small property owners, some big property owners also just we're seeing the clients coming in without having to do a huge, it's a big effort. It's an operational business, but I mean, we didn't have to do very innovative things. Now we have to do. We have to go for clients. We were never really active commercially, and we will have to start to be active. So there are a lot of people, I think, we're going to give up short-term rental because it's too much of work and maybe would be not so profitable as they thought or as it was in the past. And that's good also because it's a sort of renew, and we need this renew also, including for the image of short-term rental. I mean, we need people that really are passionate for this, that want to make the extra effort to do it right, and not because it looks like it's a nice business. And that's going to happen. That's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's not always the best professional, the best organized that survives. If you were unlucky enough to have investors just 1 month before the pandemic, maybe you are in a much worse, and you did it right because everything said invest now because everything was going wrong. Maybe financially you're in a bad, worse situation than someone that is not very professional that didn't reinvest. That's life adaptation. But anyway, we'll have we have the potential to have a bright future here, and we have the potential in this 1 or 2 years to change the image of short-term rental. We really have this potential. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be demanding. New efforts, new obligations eventually with the sustainability. But if we don't take the step, we are going to lose the biggest opportunity we ever had.
Interesting you say that, because that really brings us to my next question. And I saw this common thread throughout your presentations about your relationships with government, with local authorities, etc. And I'd like to address the question first to you, Marilee, and others, of course, to comment as well. Have you seen a change in public and government perception of the short-term industry throughout this pandemic? And do you think we'll benefit from that going forward as well?
Yeah, so I think very transparently, back in March, we had a lot of negative press on our industry about people who were traveling to second homes, to vacation rentals, and, you know, in a way, in the minds of local people, spreading the virus to local areas. I think that was a very low spot in terms of PR for the industry. I think then what happened was two things that I think are very positive. The first one is, I think, you know, in the UK, but also around the world, the industry really came together and actually delivered things like NHS homes and positive community programs, which actually was extremely well received, both from a PR point of view as well as from regulators. And actually, the other thing that's happened, and Eduardo touched on this, is that, you know, there were sometimes people in our industry who just thought it was an easy buck to put properties up on Airbnb or whatever and do short-term rentals. And that has caused a problem in many cities in particular, because, you know, then you start brushing up against people who see this as a housing issue. Now, we know that, you know, from all the data that's available, that was always ever such a small proportion. But no matter how small a proportion that was something which aggravated policymakers, and gave the hotels and gave others who wanted to find reasons to regulate our industry an excuse, because our industry was taking away housing from local people. Now, how big that problem was, I think we can all argue and debate about, but the reality is the crisis has solved that from market conditions. And what that's meant is that people who could be landlords year-round have often left the market and have now let out on long-term rentals those properties. And that has meant a very big shift in the discussions that we're having with the government, because they see that the problem in their mind of housing has often been solved by the crisis. And therefore, they're much more open to speaking to us about accreditation, about our buildings policy, about all the voluntary things we're doing, so that we don't need government regulation, but instead the industry can, in a way, regulate itself. And show that the industry is responsible. And I think if we can take this opportunity over the next year or two to have those clear standards, to roll out accreditations across the world, which are consistent, to focus on sustainability and a number of these things, we can be an industry that government sees as a really positive example of leadership. And I'm really excited that we've got that opportunity. And I'm also excited that more and more we're working together as an industry, both across associations and across geographies, as well as, you know, more and more people becoming members, and creating a bigger and bigger voice of how this industry can grow responsibly.
Great. Thank you so much. I feel the same way exactly. Carlos, Eduardo, anything you'd like to add on that point?
Well, I totally agree that we have to deliver solutions, and we have all these kind of things. We have devices like Room Monitor in Barcelona. They are putting them all everywhere, and now opening up in Madrid, where all these noise discussions can be just cancelled from one day to the other, because we can point at a solution of this, and the livability, living together, sustainability. We use the existing building much more efficient than just building a house for people to live in and another house for the tourist and a third for the business. We can use the capacity much more clever, and we can come up with quality measures, quality in tourism, as Marilee mentioned. We have the luggage issues that we can solve with Luggage Hero and others that can help all that kind of things. But I want to turn a little bit around, because I think that property managers have been very bad in working together for a long period. And I think that will change for the better. And I don't think that's because they are bad people, that they don't like to work together and in trade associations. I think that because we are in the most competitive sector, we compete like crazy because as property managers and platforms and everything, because we both compete on having the property with us and having the guest with us. So we compete on both sides. If we are bad sellers, then the property owner will say, I don't need you, property manager, I can get a better property manager. If we have the platform doesn't deliver, well, I can change from that platform to the other. So we really have been growing from an industry so competitive, but now we are realizing that there's a room where we actually totally agree, and we can see it's not only because we're getting better people, but we can see the push from outside trying to close us down. But that's the perception from outside sometimes, and therefore people are saying, oh, we need to get together to explain the reality, and we have those solutions.
Carlos, yes, sometimes, speaking also primarily, people don't realize how what we manage to do and how lucky we are that we are in countries that we manage to open a dialogue with the government. But there's always going to be, and that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, this question of the urban ambient, meaning that the housing situation, and that contaminates the whole talk and negotiation. And that's not something that you can only change with facts. I mean, you can come with the best studies of the world. People say, no, you don't know how to explain that. No, me and nobody else in the world, because this is our weakest point. So we have to find solutions, work with them. And sometimes denial is not the best way. We have to find ways, because if we overcome this question of the urban areas, and I think that's the main debate, we managed to create this new image for the industry, and I think that's one of the biggest debates that we have here: how to find a balance. And denial is not going to solve. We are in the middle of the way here. We don't like some of the solutions, but at least they have no idea what means outside. For example, we fought until the end to avoid the 90 days restrictions, because our people are mostly professionals, or they do it most of the year. So I cannot eat only 30 days or 90 days or 60 days. I have to eat the whole year. So, and that was a huge fight that we managed to go out to. And most of the cities outside, they went to this way with the limits of the day limit. So this is the kind of thing that we have to take advantage now, because for the first time I never saw that. I had a meeting with the city, with the parties of the city, an online meeting, and I had the most extreme left-wing parties asking us, what do you need? Can we work together in the students? And I said, no, that's unreal. But it's important to open this bridge and to construct some bridge, because in the end of the day, they are going to decide. Even if you have the best argument, the decision comes from them. So I think it's an opportunity, as they see us a little bit more fragile, human. There are people suffering behind short-term rental also. And that's an opportunity also to create this bridge.
Great. I have so many questions and so little time. That's the only problematic part. We're getting close to the end of our session. And I would like to hear from all of you. How do you see the association's role rolling into 2021? I mean, we understand what has been done in 2020, and it's a lot. What do you see as the main role, and why should we encourage participants to really take part in those associations and contribute to them? Carlos, why don't you start?
I'll do it short. We need to focus on the reopening. And I also think that was some of the points from my colleagues, both you, Marilee, and Eduardo, really, in a very clever way also. I love your rocket, Eduardo, about how we have to, no, because when you're in the middle of things, it's impossible to what should we do next? And we should really focus on the reopening and being part of the solution, not just sitting and waiting for others to open, but push for a good opening, and also be part of the solution on the other side when the bills will be paid, has to be paid, etc. So I think that's quite important, and we can use each other to learn how to do things. So yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Eduardo?
We always have to, and we learned that in the last 2 years, we have to work into different levels, even with property manager. And one level is the defense of defending the industry and with this legal things and preparing the future. But we also need another very practical level when we bring daily value for them. So, for example, in our side, besides all this legal and government stuff, we are working on the online training. That's very important, something that we see that with the webinars. Now it's nice because we learned that it's easy and we can do it, and we can go in the countryside of Portugal. He doesn't have to travel 200 kilometers to get a training. So this is one of the areas. The second is opening doors, meaning opening doors for new markets. And for example, with the platform, so that they know when they come to the association, they eventually are going to be able to have other channels that they didn't have before for business. The third one is mainly to provide solutions and products and service and better. For example, since last year, all our members have automatically the insurance for the home, and if they have extra homes, they can buy the insurance for a very lower price than the market, and that's obligatory now, for example. So this is added value, immediate added value. So we are working in these three areas here that I believe they are important. You know, defending the industry, helping them to get professional, and also giving some extra alternatives for them in terms of products and services.
Great. And Mary Lee, please end this session with the answer.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, next year is a year I'm super optimistic about. I think our industry is going to come back stronger than we went into the crisis. And I think the opportunity and the reason for people to get involved is so that they can help be a part of that recovery. And I think, as you become a member of an association, it does a few things. One is it helps you to be more professional, to learn and to see opportunities that you might not have otherwise seen. I think it also helps you to be part of that voice so that we speak to government and make sure that we've got the right environment for us all to grow our companies in the future. And the final thing is that, we can all collaborate, we can all work together. I always think, we come out of a kind of sharing economy, all these types of things. We're a fantastic industry full of wonderful people. And the more that we all work together, the more that all of us are going to succeed coming out the other side. So I just think it's great for us all to do that, and an opportunity for everyone to get involved in that next year.
Wonderful. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. For those of you asking questions, feel free to send them over to meetup@guesty.com, and we'll respond to those questions after the meetup. I see some of you are responding to each other, which is wonderful. In the meantime, I'd like to thank our wonderful panelists, Marilee, Carlos, and Eduardo. It's been an insightful session. I've also learned a lot, and I think we all ended with a lot of positivity towards 2021. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to all our participants. And we look forward to seeing you in 21, where I'm sure we'll have a lot more events. In the meantime, happy holidays, everyone, and a happy new year. Thank you, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Hi,
Thank you very much.